So I asked an AI how to invest £50,000 in the UK, and the answers were surprising. In this video, I'll show you what the AI missed and the top 5 ways that I would invest £50,000. By the end of the video, you'll understand how I typically approach such investment decisions and the different scenarios that I would typically take into consideration. Now, before we go ahead, as always, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Modupe, and I am not an investment advisor. What I am is someone who, over the last 15 years, has learned how to make my money work for me, both outside the UK and more recently in here in the UK. And I'd like to share what I've learned in all that time. I must, however, remind you that the contents of this video are based purely off my personal experience and research, and nothing here should be taken as investment advice. If you need investment advice, please consult the services of a licensed financial professional. With that said, let's put the AI to the test. So I asked Gemini, Google's generative AI, how to invest £50,000 in the UK. And you're going to see the results unfold on my screen. We'll walk through its answers together, and I'll point out the critical mistakes and show you the strategies that I would use as opposed to what the AI was suggesting. The good thing though is I managed to guide the AI correctly, and we're able to arrive at an investment plan that sort of made sense, at least to me. So lately I've been tinkering with Google's AI Studio, and I decided to compare the responses of 2 models, so twice the fun. But first, we need to craft a perfect prompt to kick off the exercise. I'll link my video where I talk about prompt engineering. By the way, if you watch this video to the end, you'll not only see how I would invest £50,000, but I'll also let you know which platforms that I would actually use for those investments. So let's get started. Google AI, what will you build? We'll start off with the prompts. You are an experienced financial advisor with over 15 years experience. So what I'm doing first is providing the Gen AI with the context for what we want to get into here. So I'm telling it to imagine that it's a well-versed financial advisor, to take on the role of a financial advisor. In this case, it's a well-versed financial advisor with years of experience in the UK. The client is a well-paid employee of a multinational company who recently relocated from Nigeria to the UK and has received a handsome bonus. You won't believe how often this happens. Okay, maybe not up to 50k, but people move to the UK, they get relocation allowances, and they are not sure what to do with the money. In some cases, it's just 10k, in some cases, it's 15k, in some cases, if they're lucky, 50, 60k. So in this fictional scenario, this guy has received a handsome relocation allowance of £50,000, probably covering maybe 6 months of accommodation plus other things. And the individual is unfamiliar with the UK but wants to judiciously use this money, wants to judiciously invest these funds, all the basic needs. So we don't want it thinking about rent, food. It's purely investment here. So all the basic needs have already been taken care of. This money is purely for investment. Now, the first step in this kind of scenario is you still need to understand a few things about the person that wants to invest the money, because different people invest in different ways, right? So I want the AI to ask the individual a few questions, a few relevant questions. Honestly, I'm not sure what questions it would ask, but it should ask the right questions so that it gets an idea of their goals, their risk appetite, and then based off that, it should suggest how they can invest this sum in the most tax efficient way to generate the most returns in the most tax efficient way. So, like I said, I'm going to compare the results of 2 AI models. Now, I'll compare with Gemma. I don't think Gemma is owned by Google, but Gemini is owned by Google. So let's see how these 2 AI models handle this task. So Gemini is still thinking. Gemma has already rushed out an answer in 7 seconds. Cool. Let's see. It's asking some good questions here. Are you looking to grow this money for a specific future goal, like buying property, Are you looking for something accessible in the short term or long term? So he's asking the question that I usually would have said is the most important criteria. What's your time frame? Is it long term? Is it short term? Do you have an existing financial goal back in Nigeria? That's also a good question, because some people are actually, maybe people that are building houses back home, they may want to consider using or doing some other projects. Maybe they have some property projects or some business back home. They may want to use that. Do you see yourself staying in the UK long term? Is a very good question though. And then, do you already have any other existing savings or investments? That's also a good question. So what's Gemma saying? Gemma is asking, what are your short-term goals? What's your investment horizon? So these are good questions. What's your investment horizon? That investment horizon is very important. I always say that's the first question you should always ask yourself, even before you start to invest or before you start looking at investment options. How long can I let this money sit? What's my investment time horizon? Is it short term? Is it long term? Is it medium term? And then what's your risk appetite? Those are very important things as well. Let's see. Let's give it some answers. Let's give both models some answers. They're asking similar questions, so I'll tailor my response to cater to both of them. So in terms of goals, let's say I want to have some accessible funds. All right, so I'm playing a game here. I'm going to lead the AI on and hint at what I would do normally. So one, I would set up an emergency fund. If I had 50 grand free, 50 grand cash, I would use it, first of all, set up an emergency fund. And typically, emergency funds, you want to keep it between 3 to 6 months of your monthly expenses. Not necessarily your monthly salary, but let's say this person is a big boy, so he's earning maybe 5k a month or spending 5k a month. So let's assume the emergency funds will be like maybe 3 to 6 months, maybe 15 to 30k. The other thing is I want to invest some money in longer term assets. Now, I'm not, medium and long term assets can overlap, right? But at least 5 years, I'm going to lock this money there now. This person, like we said earlier, has just moved to the UK. So they're probably trying to get ILR, maybe considering citizenship. You see this question about, do you see yourself staying in the UK long term? It also helps. Then this bit about, would you prepare, imagine you invest a portion of this money and in a year, due to market fluctuations, its value is temporarily decreased. How would you feel about that? That's a good question, because it's testing the person's risk appetite, right? I'm not worried about short-term market dips. If it's a long-term investment, it really won't bother me. But if it's a short-term investment, it's my emergency fund, I need it to be accessible and I don't want anything happening to the principal. So that's already narrowing down my options, because there are not so many investments that you can do that will keep your principal secure beyond, I don't know, cash ISA or high interest savings account. But let's assume this individual doesn't know that. The individual that is asking the AI the question. Now, in terms of risk appetite, if you check your pension provider in the UK, when they show you different funds, maybe if you check Vanguard, they will rank those funds from a scale of 1 to 5 in terms of risk. I would put myself at a 4 personally, because I'm more gung-ho about investing in stocks. Once you drop below 4, they'll start to blend stocks and bonds. Personally, Modupe speaking here, I'm not interested in bonds. I'm either doing high interest savings accounts, which I can access, easy access savings accounts, or I'm doing stocks. So I would put myself at a 4 in terms of risk appetite. Like we're looking at, this person now is looking to stay in the UK beyond 5 years, or at least 5 years, so that they can get their ILR, and they might want to move to other countries after that, or they could still decide to stick around and get a British passport. So let's say 5 years is a long time, but by the time you've stayed here for 5 years, you are almost British now. Are you not almost British? Yeah, you're a speaking British person. And of course, relocating back to Nigeria is also always an option if the country gets better. So this is typically what happens when you're talking to an investment advisor. This is the kind of exercise you do. You don't just go, oh, I have 50k, tell me how to invest it. No, they will ask you a bunch of questions. They'll get to know you. What are your goals? What kind of person are you? What's driving you? What are you investing this money for? Is it for your children? Is it for your retirement? What exactly is it for? Relocating to a different country? Do you want early retirement? So those are the kind of questions that an investment advisor will probably ask you. things that you yourself, even if you don't go to meet an investment advisor, those are some of the considerations you would look at, some of the things you would consider before you say, this is how I want to invest this money, or this is what my investment strategy is going to be going forward. So it's important. It seems like I'm advertising investment advisors, but honestly, that's why they exist. There was a video I watched where someone asked that question, that if it's so easy to invest, why is it that you need investment advisors? This is why you need them. You need them to guide you through the process of asking these kind of questions, or making certain decisions that have nothing to do with this ETF or that ETF, or this platform or that platform. Those are tactics. You need to know exactly what your long-term strategy is, what exactly are you trying to achieve, when will you need this money, what is it for, what are you investing for, are you investing for early retirement for your kids? And that will now inform the ideal vehicle, because honestly, we have as many paths to wealth and financial freedom as we have human beings. So the exact actions may be similar. All of us go through the stock market, all of us use ETFs, but the reasons, the time frame, the strategies would vary from person to person. And an investment advisor would guide you through that. Or you could do it yourself, like I like to do. I've spoken to investment advisors before, but most of the time I end up making my own decisions myself. The choice is yours. Now back to Gemini and Gemma. What are my short-term financial goals? Good question. Do you have any specific plans for the bonus? Oh, like debt. That's a good point. So if you have some outstanding debt you want to take care of, what's your investment horizon now? That's a good question. How long do I plan to invest this money? Is it 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years? How long? But I've already given you the answer, have I not? Okay, no. Let's give you the answer to that. So let's say at least 5 years or more, right? And I want to have some accessible funds in case of an emergency. So some of it will go to short term, some of it will go to long term. Let's see what Gemma and Gemini come up with. But I like this question about, do you see yourself staying in the UK long term? Because I know a number of immigrants, when they first of all relocate, not even just to UK, some to Canada, some to the US, initially it's not meant to be a permanent move. It's usually meant to be a temporary thing. And not even just Nigerians. I know both Nigerian and non-Nigerian immigrants who, they make that move temporarily. They get what they want out of the whole arrangement and they leave. They go back to their home country after maybe 5 years or 10 years in some cases. Some people work all their time in the foreign country and then eventually retire to their home country. So it really depends on your long-term goals. And some decide to stay permanently and raise their kids in the new country. So it depends on you. So you see this AI, it sounds articulate, but it's not as intelligent as it seems. Now, do you have any more questions? Can you make a preliminary recommendation? No, if you need more information, it would ask me. I'm not familiar with the UK financial system or available investment types. So the reason I'm saying this is I want to test the AI's ability to actually come up with ideas and recommendations beyond just the usual stuff, ISA, which everybody does. All right, so what would it tell me? Let's see if it can impress me. All right, so Gemma, has Gemma answered already? Gemma has already given answer. Gemma does not waste time. 9 seconds, coughed out the answer. Gemini is still thinking. Okay, that's also finished. Gemini likes to show off and tell us that he's thinking. So Gemma is saying, okay, breakdown, short-term investment, emergency fund, high-yield savings account, you lock it down for 1 or 2 years. So you see what I usually say about short-term investments, anything less than 3 years. Anything less than 3 years is short-term in my books. Let's see, what are the options it's giving us here? So for long-term funds, stock in investment funds, stocks and shares. Did this thing stop at 15 minutes? I just discovered that half of my screen recording didn't save. I did this for like an hour, but I only saved 15 minutes. But luckily, I used the AI studio, so it has a record of everything. I'll just do another screen grab, but you won't see me come up with the questions. I'll just talk over the results. It's okay. Wait. The important thing is I want to maximize my returns and take advantage of any tax efficiency opportunities. Alright? I'm already in a higher tax bracket. Cool. I like the way Gemma just drops the answer. Meanwhile, this guy will be spooling it out for you. So what are the suggestions? Gemma had said high yield savings account. Aim for a high interest savings account with a reputable bank like a building society. Consider a fixed term deposit. I want it to be emergency fund. Cannot be fixed term if it's for emergency. Yeah? That's so silly. See, AI is not that smart sometimes. Long-term index funds, yes. Diversified index fund that tracks the FTSE 100 or a global index fund. Okay, so don't take investment advice from AI. You can't just put the long-term investments in FTSE 100. FTSE 100 is top 100 stocks in the UK. UK is mixed up about 5% of global stock market. You don't want to put all your money in FTSE 100. Now, let's look at Gemini. Gemini says emergency fund, yes. With capital protection and accessibility. Yes, those are the criteria for a good emergency fund. So it needs to be readily accessible. Recommendation, allocate 10 to 15 grand to a high yield, easy access savings account. That makes sense. Easy access savings account. So I think Gemini is getting the idea. So he puts either easy access savings account or a cash ISA. That's what I would do with my emergency funds. Cash ISA, because you have the likes of Trading 1-2 now that give you some delicious rates in cash ISAs. Now, with the remaining 35 to 40 grand, assuming we take 10 to 15 for emergency funds, you can now invest in stocks and shares ISA. Excellent. You're not talking about actively managed funds. Why would I want to actively manage funds? Platform choice. Yes. What are your choices? You need to give me suggestions too. You can't just be telling me that I should check for platforms. Take some time. I should take some time to research. You do the research and give me the answers, bros. Regular reviews. Yeah, that's true. You need to review your investment portfolio regularly, but not too regularly. Don't check your stocks. I always tell my friends, don't check your investment. Once you've done your analysis once and you picked an investment, leave it. Let it do its work. It's a long-term investment. So you will go up and down within the current financial year. Review it next year. Don't be reviewing every 2 to 2 months. See how you did that year. If you didn't do well, you have the opportunity to reshuffle your portfolio every year. At least that's how I do it. Because you don't want to be buying and selling every day. That's how you lose money. So yeah, regular reviews, but you should have specified that 1 year. So we will skip Gemma. So let's see, what's Gemini saying? Yeah, just checking to make sure it's recording. You're a well-versed financial advisor with over 15 years experience providing practical support to experts in the United Kingdom. I added experts there so that you could also consider the fact that this person more or less lives in 2 countries. They might have investments in both countries, they might have assets in both countries, so keep that in mind. But they're based in the UK. Before we jump into specific, it's crucial for me to understand, and it is crucial for there to be an understanding of the person's individual circumstances. That is the role of an investment advisor, not a YouTube channel. A YouTube channel cannot help you with your own specific unique case. Although, who knows? There might be something we are working on in that area. But for now, a channel can't help you with that. You need a one-on-one convo with someone to guide you through that process. Or you could go through a set of questions and guide yourself through that process there, which is what we're doing here. So let's start with your financial goals. Thinking about this 50K, what are you hoping to achieve in the medium to the long term? For example, are you looking to grow this money for a future specific goal, like buying property in the UK, funding your kids' education, or building a comfortable retirement nest egg? Like I said earlier, you may want to buy property, you may be investing for your kids, you may be investing for your own retirement or early retirement or late retirement or retiring back to your home country. Those are things that vary from person to person. Or are you looking for something more accessible in the shorter term? Maybe you want to buy something big, I don't know, you want to buy a Lambo and you're trying to save up to that, or you want to go into business. Do you have any existing financial goals back in Nigeria? So if you could be building a business back home in Nigeria, or have a property project, a real estate project back home in Nigeria that this money could help you with. Let's talk about your comfort level with risk. Imagine you invest a portion of this money and in a year, due to market fluctuations, its value temporarily decreases. How would you feel about that? Now, personally, that kind of thing doesn't faze me. Market goes up, market comes down. I will read a comment at the end of this video where someone asked a question about the market is going down right now thanks to Donald Trump Sr. How do I feel about it? This is a sale. This is a sale, right? It was that thing that I believe it was Winston Churchill that this quote was credited to. Never let a good crisis go to waste. So if the market is crashing, boy, dive in. What do you do when things are cheap? Things that you know you want, you buy. You buy when things are cheap. You don't buy when they are expensive. So you should be buying when the market is crashing, not when the market is growing. That's how it should work. But of course, that's only if you are certain that you are buying the right thing. So there's no point buying a bad investment, pumping more money into a bad investment. So if you invested in some random crypto stock and the price is crashing, there's no point saying you buy more, buy the dip. You are buying your own dip. So I've been using Google AI Studio for this exercise, but this video unfortunately is not sponsored by Google. It's sponsored by me. So if you're enjoying it so far, click the like button and comment below and let me know. Just tell me what insights you've already got from so far from everything I've been saying. Anything new that you've learned. Alright, thank you. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you for clarifying your goals and risk appetite. It sounds like you have a very sensible and balanced approach. Thank you. I do consider myself sensible and balanced. Let's break down how we can approach this 50 grand. Gemini is suggesting I split it into two main pots. Emergency fund for capital protection and accessibility. So that's the thing about emergency funds. Those are two good criteria for emergency funds. One, you should protect the money you put in there. Ideally, your emergency fund shouldn't go into a stock portfolio because the value could drop when you need the money. You don't know when the emergency would come up. So if the value drops at the time that you need that money, then it doesn't serve its purpose as an emergency fund. So it should be something that you don't have that risk of the value dropping. At least the value shouldn't drop out for any other reason aside inflation. So that's one. And then the other thing is accessibility. I can't lock it down like Gemma suggested earlier because you never know when you will have an emergency and need those funds. So it needs to be something that can easily be accessed for you to serve the purpose of an emergency fund. That's the other bit. He's suggesting 10 to 15 grand in a high yield, easily access savings account or a cash. Good options. Good on you, Gemini. Second option, long-term investment for growth. I strongly recommend utilizing the stocks and shares ISA, but instead of just holding cash, it allows you to invest. So ETFs or actively managed funds. I personally do not like actively managed funds because passive funds tend to do better in the long term than actively managed funds because active managers tend to tinker with the structure of their funds. I've actually tested this. So on Invest Engine, you have the option of a DIY account or a managed account. So I have both because, as I've mentioned in some other video, I actually have some shares in Invest Engine. Now, two things. I have a DIY account, a DIY ISA. If you check the description of this video, you see a link to my portfolio on Invest Engine, and it's typically my DIY portfolio, the one I craft by myself. I think I have about 6 ETFs in there. The bulk of it is the developed global markets. I also have another account that I put just about £500. It's managed, but I put that money just to see two reasons. One, to compare the performance of my own DIY account with the managed one, to actually test that theory that passive funds do better than active funds or actively managed funds. What do I mean by passive? Passive means you buy the ETF and the ETF just tracks an index that is automatically adjusted by itself. You don't actively manage the stocks in the fund. Invest Engine doesn't actively manage the stocks, but they actively manage the ETFs. So every now and then they juggle the ETFs within that managed account, which to me is almost like tinkering. Don't tinker. Just buy the ETFs, buy a VWRL or VEV and leave it. So all that long story is to say, no, I don't like actively managed funds. Diversification is key, yes, that's why we're using ETFs. blah 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 blah. This is a lot of episode just to tell me to, one, open a cash ISA or high yield savings account, high yield easy access savings account. Yes, that's good. Deposit 10 to 15k. Yes, that's good. Open a stocks and shares ISA account with a reputable platform. What do you mean by reputable platform? Deposit the remaining into your stocks and shares ISA. Boom. This is where I catch you. So Gemini, stocks and shares ISA cannot contain 35 to 40,000 in 1 year, because newsflash, your ISA allowance as at 2025 is £20,000 per tax year. Unless I'm investing 20k before April and 20k after April, I can't put all these 35 to 40k inside the stocks and shares ISA. Let's point that out. If the annual ISA allowance is 20 grand, how much should I put in the cash ISA, and how much should I put in the stocks and shares ISA, and what do I do with the remaining 30,000? Let's give it that puzzle. Excellent question. You're absolutely right to focus on 20k ISA allowance. See, this AI, they like to do it. When you catch them, they will now say, yes, it's true, you're right. My apologies for not explicitly addressing the allocation within the limits. Let's clarify and refine the plan. Yes. So here's how we can allocate the first 20k. Within the 20k, prioritize stocks and shares. Yes, that's what I personally do, because your tax liabilities are not likely to be plenty on a cash ISA than stocks and shares. So if I'm looking for an investment to protect from taxes, it's going to be stocks and shares, not cash. Cash, I can put it in a regular bank account and let it be collecting interest. I'll pay the taxes on the interest. It can't be plenty. But the taxes on capital gains, imagine if you had invested in Nvidia or some of that stock that grew recently, and it grew significantly, and then now tell you to come and pay taxes, especially this fictional character that is in a higher tax band. It's going to be more than what they would have to pay on just interest from a bank. So typically, if I'm using my ISA, I prioritize stocks and shares. I don't do cash ISA personally. Even with trading tools, I don't do cash. I know the interest rates are juicy, but no. So it's saying scenario 1, 10k emergency fund, stocks and shares ISA, allocate 10k to stocks and shares ISA and 10k to a cash ISA for you. So the 20k is utilized. Remaining 30k go. Scenario 2, 15k emergency fund, put 5k in stocks and shares ISA and 15k in cash ISA. What to do with the remaining 30k? This remaining 30k. Since you can only put 20k in here, we need to consider remaining. So carry forward to the next year. Yes, so let's say we're currently in March. If you had 50k now, assuming you didn't use your ISA allowance for this year, you could put 20k in an ISA for the current tax year, and then when the tax year shifts by April 6th to be precise, you're going to invest another 20k. So effectively, you would have invested 40k in an ISA in one calendar year, but not in the same tax. I hope this doesn't sound too complicated. So if I can't fit everything, all the whole 50k inside ISA, let's say I put 20k in the stocks and shares ISA and I finish it for that tax year, and then the remaining 30k, I could put 10k for easy access savings account as your emergency fund, and then the remaining 20k, you put that in a general investment account. A general investment account is basically just a regular investment account with no tax protections. So unlike an ISA where you don't have to bother paying taxes on your returns, for a general investment account, you do have to pay taxes. So you pay taxes on your dividends, you pay taxes on the capital gains, on the growth of your stock portfolio. Typically, you pay taxes on dividends as they occur, but you would only pay taxes on the capital gains when you sell those shares. Okay. Then overpay on mortgage. I don't have mortgage yet. This person just relocated to the country. Please calm down. So he's playing with that time thing. So he's saying, okay, for now I put the 30k in an easy access savings account, and then when the tax year moves, I now take out 20k and put it in another ISA for this new year. Yeah. It takes care of the ISA allocation. So you now have 20k in cash ISA, 20k in stocks and shares ISA, and then what? 10k in another easy access savings account. That's like 30k in savings. Can't put all your money in savings. So the reason I don't really like savings accounts is, one, your interest rates in this country are ridiculously low. If you're lucky, you get 5%. I think that's the highest I've seen on average. Occasionally, you have maybe 7% for a new account or some ridiculous rate like that, but on average 4 point something, close to 5%. Trading 212 had 5.2% last year, which was decent, but it's still not great. That's one. And then your inflation too is constantly eating at your money, so you are constantly targeting something that is above inflation as much as possible. So that your 5% that you think, you need to deduct the inflationary impact on it and see the real value of that money after a year. So that's why I'm not really a fan of that. On the other hand, if you do stocks and shares or ETFs, your potential for growth is a lot higher. I would rather maximize the stocks and shares ISA allocation and leave emergency fund in a high yield savings account. Let's use all the ISA allocation for stocks and shares. Put 20k in stocks and shares, and then put an additional 10k in a high yield easy access savings account. So with that, I had 20k uninvested. Now, let's assume that this whole investment exercise starts on the 30th of April. What investment options do I have? Let me lead the AI on a bit. Let's assume the person has a wife that is not working and a young child. Let's see the options that this guy will give me. Now, if we refine the plan, here's the revised strategy. So you put the whole 20k in stocks and shares, okay? And then you have your emergency fund in a high yield, easy access savings account. Now the remaining 20k, you have a few options. Why is he saying top up emergency fund again? We've already done emergency fund. Leave the emergency fund. Why? What are all these? Large family car, child care. No, these are not investments. These are expenses. Yeah, general investment accounts. Okay, so now this AI is going around in circles. So I need to help it. You see, what I'm getting from this is the AI is not really it's not as smart as you would expect, right? It's doing a decent job, but it's going around in circles and saying a lot. So let me give it some suggestions, which are some of the things I would consider in this scenario. So you have two people in the UK. You have the husband, you have the wife. The husband is working, the wife is not working. Both of them have ISA allocation, right? Both of them can invest up to 20k in an ISA account in each tax year. But only one of them has a 50k bonus. No wala. We use 20k allowance of the two of them with that 50k bonus. So you can put 20k in the husband's ISA account, 20k in the wife's ISA account. That's 40k invested long term with tax protection. And then you have 10k left. Put that in your high yield savings account and you sorted out your allocation for the 50 grand. So that would be my first thought. But then again, there are other options. We talked about the child here, so can we not do something for the child? How about a junior ISA? Junior ISA, you can invest up to £9,000 a year in a junior ISA. So instead of putting that whole 20k in the wife's ISA, why don't we split it? So we put 10k in the wife's ISA and then that 9k, put it in the junior ISA for the small child. That junior ISA is locked down till that child is 18 and then you can pull it out. Or you could explore a junior SIPP. Let me see what the AI will say. I'm giving it the suggestions now. So now I'm saying, oh yes, absolutely, Oludo. Utilizing your wife's ISA allowance is an option. Oh, GCS. Long-term investment options for your child. Junior ISA, junior SIPP. So a SIPP is a personal pension. A junior one is basically you open a pension for your child, which is okay. My only issue is that child can't get that money until they are 57, and I would rather give my child a leg up earlier in life than something that they cannot access until they're in the 50s. And who knows, by the time the child is even old, life expectancy might be 120 by then, and they will have changed the pension rules that you can't access your money until you're 80. So no, I wouldn't do a junior SIPP, but it's an option. There's a guy that was like, your children are not very smart when they're still teenagers, so you don't want to slam them with too much money. But yeah, you can still structure your junior ISA in such a way that yes, they get that money at 18, but it goes into maybe a trust or some other. You make sure you train your children properly on how to manage money. Let them be eager to start investing. So that by the time they are 18, they take that money and put it into some other investment or start a business. So you need to watch my video where I talk about the things that you should be doing by the age of. So yeah, let's look at our options. Cons: money is locked away. Yeah, it's locked away till the child is 18. SIPP is the one that is really locked away. It's locked away until that child is okay much later in life. General investment. How would I open a general investment account for a child? So yeah, this is a nice thing. See, I always like it when they generate tables because it makes me see all these shalaye. They'll be spooling out stories. Sometimes you get lost in the weeds with the output, but when they give you a table, sometimes I actually ask the AI to summarize its answer in a detailed table. So it will give me a table, put the details in the table, and then I can see, okay, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to do. So here you can clearly see that if you do the junior ISA, your child has access to those funds at the age of 18, which I think is fair enough. But if you do a junior SIPP, your child gets that money at retirement age. We're not even considering general investment account, because rather than do general investment account for my child, I'll do one for myself. And then in terms of limits, see, the limit for junior ISA is even higher than the limit for junior SIPP. So what's the point? If I were doing this, I would definitely be leaning towards a junior ISA, not a junior SIPP. We've given the AI some ideas. So now, here's my allocation. 20k into my stocks and shares ISA, 10k into an easy access high interest savings account, 10k into my wife's ISA. So the easy access high interest savings account is my emergency fund, 10k into my wife's ISA so that we continue to maximize the stocks and shares. So that's 30k in stocks and shares, 10k in emergency fund, and then we put 5k in the child's junior ISA. I know the limit is 9k, but I don't want to use all that remaining 10k. We've already used 40k now. I want this AI to give me more ideas. I'm left with 5k to invest. What other investment options can I consider outside the ones we've already discussed? Now you notice I keep pushing and prodding the AI. So this is a bit of crash course in prompt engineering as well, because you need to realize that the first answer that the AI chatbot gives you is not going to be its best. You have to keep prompting and prodding and sometimes leading it on, but not too much, right? You lead it on towards what you are thinking, but then let it give you pros and cons. So that's something, I didn't do it here, but that's something else I usually do when I'm prompting an AI. I ask it to give me pros and cons, or to rank options. So I give it the options I'm considering and I tell it to rank these options and tell me why. Or I give it the idea that I'm considering and I say, give me the pros and cons of this idea. And it gives me a lot of this particular exercise. I guess Gemini is not very good with with considering investment options. And he knows the rules, but he's not suggesting them spontaneously. That's where I'm a bit disappointed here. But it's fine. Maybe I'm expecting too much from computer love here. Okay, fantastic. Yeah. What other options? Since you've already covered the core basics, emergency savings, long-term savings, stock market investments, child savings, this final 5k, we can consider options like potentially slightly higher returns with still relatively low risk. Okay, I'd like to see that. Diversifying beyond traditional stocks and bonds. Okay, that sounds like crypto. And then investments aligned with special interest or goals. So the first one that is suggesting now is premium bonds. See, these NS&I guaranteed growth bonds, if you do the calculation, it's not worth it. It's not worth it at all. It always sounds nice when you do the return, because the issue with it is you're not guaranteed that you will get. So these are government-backed savings products that have a fixed interest rate for a set term. They are saved, yeah, but the interest rates are usually pretty low. I'm not doing that one. Ethical or sustained. See, statistically speaking, all the ethical funds have two issues. One, sometimes they are not completely 100% ethical, because by the time you check supply chain of some of the companies in there, they have one issue or the other. But aside that, more importantly, they don't make as much money as regular funds. So what's the point? I'm investing for money, I'm not investing for ethics. Yeah. Peer-to-peer lending. Okay, I don't know much about this, but it sounds very high risk. Oh yeah, it is high risk. Proceed with caution. Investing in yourself. It sounds good actually, because see, there's something I said in a different video. The most important investment you can make is investing in your ability to earn more money, right? Because it's one thing for you to invest in stocks and make money from dividends or capital gains, but in my own personal experience, where I've made the most money is from increases in my earnings, in my salary. So that comes in, and then you can invest that and it grows. So it keeps bumping up your overall base. So you can keep investing that until you get to a stage where maybe you don't need the monthly pay anymore, but it helps basically when you start with that whole process of investing in yourself so that you can earn more money. So you can take courses, you can do skills-based courses, you can learn about AI for free. Actually, you don't even need to pay money for that one. Lots of free courses, but yeah, you can pay for platforms where you can practice the use of AI. That's valuable. Or learn coding with AI. So this remaining 5k, you will lean towards investing in my own skills. So even Gemini gets this. So I like the option of investing in myself, in my skills and professional development, and also investing some of the remaining 5k in crypto assets. Now that the sum is fully allocated, please summarize the investment plan in a simple table and suggest low-cost, easy-to-use platforms for each investment option. So beyond just telling me, okay, this is how you can allocate the money. If we actually want to go ahead with the allocation and the investment, where do we invest? We have an allocation, but where do we use it? So here's my summarized investment plan. Long-term growth and tax efficiency, that's your ISA. And the platforms suggested are Vanguard. I'm not a fan of Vanguard at the moment. One, it restricts you to Vanguard funds only, and then two, they now charge fees, which we didn't do either in the past. Free trade, I'm not a fan of free trade because free trade has limits on their actual free trade. It's not really free. Trading 212, yes, that gets a huge thumbs up from me because you can invest in practically anything you want. You can have a cash ISA with them, you can invest in stocks and shares, you can invest in ETFs, and it's all free. Sometimes they charge you for when you invest in a fund that is not domiciled in the UK or that the currency is not in pounds, but aside that, it's free. So that's Trading 212. AJ Bell, I don't know, I've never used them. Fidelity, I hear good things about the company, but I don't think it's free to invest in them. Now, in terms of high yield savings accounts, I like what it said here. Now, this is something I've actually mentioned in a different video of mine. It suggested a few banks, Atom Bank, Chip, Marcus by Goldman Sachs. It also mentions Money Saving Expert. Now, Money Saving Expert, I'll leave a link in the description. I actually left a link in the previous video that I did where I talked about the criteria for deciding what to invest in. So on this site, Money Saving Expert, you can actually see the best options in terms of high yield, easy access savings accounts. Yeah, I like this suggestion because it's what I would do, right? So yeah, it's catching on. It's giving me Trading 212, which is one of my two options when it comes to platforms for stocks and shares ISA. One is Trading 212. And the second one is Invest Engine, which I just love the interface and the fact that it's free and the fact that they guide you towards investing in ETFs so that you don't go and be gambling with stocks. And then you can buy ETFs from all over the place. So you can buy Vanguard ETFs there, you can buy BlackRock ETFs there, X-Trackers as well is also there. What else do we have here? So for the junior ISA, it's suggesting Vanguard. So Trading 212 doesn't do junior ISAs, and neither does Invest Engine. So for that one, you may want to do these other guys. Hargreaves Lansdowne, that's a popular name, though I believe they're expensive. I guess these are a few options. That's good. Professional development, Coursera, Udemy, LinkedIn, you can even get lots of free training in these platforms, but yeah, thanks. Now, speculative. My guy gave me 1k for speculative investments. So for crypto, what is he saying for crypto, for speculative? Coinbase, Gemini, Kraken. This is a very important thing. So platform research, do your own thorough research, thank you. But this bit, FSCS protection, is very important. Now I have another video that I'll capture the things I look out for when it comes to selecting platforms, but this is one of them. You want to be sure that the platform provider is regulated by the FSCS, which is the body in the UK that regulates these finance companies. So you want to make sure it's protected, Typically what they do is they protect the money that you put in there up to a limit of £85,000. So because I haven't used these other platforms, I'm now prompting it again. Would you consider Invest Engine or eToro UK as suitable platforms for some of these investments? In the past, you couldn't invest in more than one ISA provider each year, but now you can, so long as you keep your total allocation under 20k in total across all the ISAs that you open. So I'm suggesting Invest Engine to this guy. I'm also suggesting eToro because that's what I use for my crypto. Invest Engine is suitable. You have a good selection of ETFs, but you don't have individual stocks. So if you want to pick stocks, you can't do that on Invest Engine. If you want to only pick ETFs, true. But most people that I know should not be picking stocks. I do it, but even not all the time. Only a small percentage of my assets sits in stocks that are individually selected. Back in Nigeria, I wasn't using ETFs. If you watch the video that I did, that was one of the things that I learned when I moved to this place. Back home in Nigeria, I would analyze and do the hard work of selecting the right stocks to invest in, and it paid off over time. But here, you don't need to do that stress. It's a more mature stock market globally. You really don't need to stress yourself. That work is hard work of picking stocks globally. Highly recommended, well suited for passive ETF investing with ISAs and junior ISAs. I'm not sure if Invest Engine does junior ISAs. eToro, yes, you can do crypto. This is interesting. So normally I would ask it for a source, but I don't want to interrupt this flow. Yeah, eToro could be considered for your small crypto allocation. Basically what I'm doing. Okay, let's discuss some ETF suggestions. So what ETFs would you suggest for these stocks and shares ISA? Personally, I typically look for global ETFs. So if one country is acting up, like Yankees acting up, I still have assets in Europe that will not collapse. I have assets in China that will not collapse. So that's how I do my ETF selection, right? So typically it's VWRL or VEV or XDEQ. Those are just a few global ETFs that I invest in. You will note those three, there's a lot of overlap, so you really don't need to invest in all of them. You can just pick one out of the three that I just mentioned if you are looking for global diversification, either VWRL or VEV. VEV is a subset of VWRL, but it excludes emerging markets, and emerging markets will include the likes of China. But what I do is I buy VEV separately and I buy emerging markets. I buy that separately so I can adjust my exposure to each as I like, right? So I can increase my exposure to emerging markets if I feel China is doing great things. It's not only China that is there, China, Brazil and other markets, but China is the big chunk of it. So I can increase my exposure to emerging markets if I like, because typically within that VWRL is typically just 90% developed markets plus 10% emerging markets. That's it. If you're looking for Nigeria in all these ETFs, Nigeria is not in there. South Africa is an emerging market, but Nigeria is not there. You have funds for developed markets, you have funds for emerging markets, and then you have funds for what they call frontier markets. Now, Nigeria used to be a frontier market. Maybe they are back now. Anyway, if you want to invest in Nigerian stock, you have to actually have a Nigerian stockbroker, transfer money to them, and then invest directly that way. I used to do that when I was in Nigeria, right? Funny enough, they actually perform quite well, but unfortunately, we're not going into that in this our 50k experiments with Gemini. So Gemini is telling me global fund and then developed world. VWRL, SWA, these are all global funds. Or you could do developed world only plus emerging markets. So this guy is basically reading my mind. Okay, good. So it's catching up. There was all these bonds. Blah, 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 blah. I'm not interested in bonds. I tried bonds, especially all these bond ETF. I tried them. It will always be growing. But you just realize, even the one that was declining in some days, growing in some days, declining in some days, by the time you trend it over a 6-month period, it has grown a lot more than the guy that was growing steadily, consistently at 0.1% every day. I don't see the point. If I need money that is safe and secure, I'll do a high yield savings account. What's the point of doing bonds, locking your money in, and still not getting more than a savings account? No. Cool. So that's a good selection of ETFs. What if I want to include some individual stocks to the portfolio? All right, I want to use trading 212 and add some individual stocks. What would you suggest and how would you allocate it? Okay, let's see. So these 8 stocks, do I have any of these? I have Legal and general, yes. I think legal and general is cool because I actually have that. I invested in this once, but I think I sold it. Anyway, none of this is investment advice. I just wanted to see what the AI will give me. You still need to do your own analysis. You see, even with AI, Google AI Studio, Gemini is giving disclaimers. So when I give disclaimers in my video, you get why. Yeah, so you see, this is an illustrative example and not personalized financial advice. So the specific stocks mentioned are for example purposes only and not recommendations. You must conduct your own thorough research. Consider your own financial situation, risk tolerance, investment goals, and potentially seek advice from a qualified financial advisor before making investment decisions, especially when selecting individual stocks. Dividend yields and stock performance can change, and past dividend history is not a guarantee of future dividends. This is actually a very decent disclaimer. Covers all the bases. Now, kindly summarize the 50k investment plan so far in a simple table. Then list out in bullet points immediate next steps that I should take to implement the plan as discussed. So this is the table it's giving me. Similar to the table you showed me. Okay, now it's added the other things, the speculative bit and the self-development. So I like that. So yeah, next steps. 1. Research platforms. Open the account on the specific platforms. Fund the accounts. And then choose investments within the ISA accounts and the crypto accounts. Choose the specific ETFs or the stocks that you, or the cryptocurrency that you invest in. There's only 2 cryptocurrencies that I would consider personally. It's either going to be Ethereum or Bitcoin. And really, even Bitcoin is just nostalgia purposes. Really, if I'm investing in crypto, it's Ethereum. I have a video where I talk about the reason why. Enrolled in professional development training courses. Set up regular reviews. Regular reviews for me will be once a year, or at most once in 6 months, but not every month, definitely. And I think we're done. So I think I've covered the bonus that I talked about as the video went ahead, but let me just reiterate them. The platforms that I use, if we use this, if we were to go with this plan that the AI gave us, meaning we put 20k in the stocks and shares ISA for the husband, 10k in the stocks and shares ISA for the wife. We put 10k in a high interest, easy access savings account. So that's 40k down. And then we put 5k in the child's junior ISA and 4k for personal development. If you don't want to do the 4k for personal development, you can just make the whole 9k go into the junior ISA for the child. And then 1k for crypto cherry. Or alternatively, if you don't have any kids yet, you have 9k plus 1k. That 1k you can use it for largesse. 9k you can invest in a general investment account, meaning basically you just invest in stock and shares and just burn and pay the what I would do actually if I had 9k and I had no kids. That 9k I would actually, like Gemini did suggest, I would increase the emergency fund from 10k to 15k, and then the 4k on top I would put that in a general investment account. One other thing, so one bonus investment that I also do, I hinted at it at some point in the video, is I invest in startup companies. Now this is high risk, high return kind of scenario, right? So for instance, Invest Engine is barely 5 years old. It's not even up to 5 years old. I think they started like 3 years ago. And when they started off, because I liked their proposition, I saw them on a platform called Crowdcube, if I'm not mistaken. It allows you to invest in up and coming companies, but beyond the investment itself. So for instance, a company like Monzo, the bank, when they started out, they used that platform. They used this platform to get investment, to get funding for their business before they actually now went public. And by the time such companies go public, the shareholders can actually sell the shares and they can pull out their investments in the company and make some money. So that's another investment option. It's very long term, very high risk, but the benefits are there. So that's one other way I would, if I had that 50k and I'd already allocated the 40k, like we said, 20k for ISA, another 10k for the wife's ISA, and another 10k for high yield easy access savings account as emergency fund. And I now had 110k that was loose that I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And there was no child to do junior ISA for. I would do this, I would just go in there and start shopping. And usually I won't put a lot of money in anyone because out of 10, maybe one, if you are lucky, would work out. But I do the analysis, look at the likelihood of it. For instance, something like investing, I don't see it crashing because finance is finance and it's actually a very good product. But the real value, the real benefit of this kind of exercise is that the government, some of them, you have to look out for the ones that have an EIS registration. So basically what that means is the government will give you a tax rebate on the amount that you invested with that company, because they're also trying to encourage people to invest in small businesses. That's actually why I do this. So I win on two ends if I win. But if I don't win, my loss is still reduced a bit. Because if the company does well, I make money from my investment there, and I also get money from the government. But if they don't, even if the company doesn't do well, at least my loss is reduced by the money I get from the government. So that's how I look at it. I'll leave links to the platform that I use for this in the comments. But before you get to this kind of investment, this one and crypto, they are almost at the same level of risk. Crypto is just slightly worse because crypto, in most cases, there's no real business around it. But at least for these ones, it's a small business. It's just that they don't have a lot of substance. Some of them haven't even started yet. They just have board of directors with LinkedIn profiles. They don't even have an actual office in some cases. But when you look at the business plan, you look at the proposals, you decide whether it makes sense or not. So this kind of thing, you do it after you've already exhausted your money on your ISA options, your emergency funds, general investment accounts. Yeah, you invested in yourself. Like you've exhausted all those options before you start playing with this kind of. Now, comments of the week. This week I have 2 comments. 2 comments on 2 videos. Double the fun. So the first comment comes from the video where we talked about rule 1 investment criteria to guide your investment decisions. And at some point in that video, I talked about the conditions for a LISA and the fact that if you are above the age of 40, you can't open a LISA in the UK. Today, Vadaman TV, my guy, Today Vada says another L for 40 plus people wanting to invest as they are shut out from the ISA. The video is insightful as usual. Thanks. It's a pity. Government is like, you had your time to invest. It's too late for you to be playing investment games now. Just be putting money in your pension. But that's not true. That's not true. While it may seem like that, you do have options. There are lots. If we look at the examples I just gave now, stocks and shares ISA, 40-year-olds can do. Junior ISA, you can do for your children. High yield savings account, it has no age restriction. Crypto, invest in a small company, EIS, there's no age restriction. So there are lots of options whether you're 40 or not. Don't feel like because LISA you can't do if you're over 40. And what's the other one? It's only LISA really that has that kind of restriction that I can't think of right now. Now the other comment is on a video that talks about the 3 surprising secrets that newcomers must know before investing. Now I guess this comment doesn't really have anything to do with the video, but it comes from KOBW4GZ, and he says, what do you think about what is happening to S&P 500? The price is falling. Now, the sky is falling. I had answered this at some point in the video, but I'll answer it again. First of all, I'll read my response to him. My response is, Warren Buffett once said, be fearful when others are greedy and be greedy when others are fearful. This is not the first time prices have fallen in the last 5 years. The price dropping just tells me that it's time to buy more. So like I said earlier, I quoted Warren Buffett. I believe Winston Churchill was the one that said, never let a good crisis go to waste. That was what I did during the pandemic. Prices crashed during the pandemic and I bought, and it was a fantastic investment where I was concerned. So for me, when I see prices falling, prices of stocks or of companies that I know that this company is still going to be here in another 10 years, they're not going to disappear. The financials are good and all that. I jump in head first. And if you don't want to worry yourself about the individual companies, see, if VWRL crashes permanently, that means the global economy has crashed permanently. If you don't expect the global economy to crash permanently, then VWRL will always be a safe buy, right? Unless you expect the entire system of the global finance to crash, which is a really extreme case, and in that case we're not even talking about stocks anymore. I don't even know which currency. So unless you are expecting seriously apocalyptic scenarios, VWRL is always a good buy. S&P 500, maybe not, right? Because it's tied to one country, but VWRL cuts across countries all over the world, across all the continents. You have South Africa in there, you have Brazil in there, you have UK in there, you have Germany, you have Japan, you have China, you have everything in VWRL. So one country may falter, another country will be fine. One company may falter, another company will be fine. The overall, and that's the whole benefit of diversifying using an ETF, the overall basket of funds will be fine. So no, I'm not worried about S&P 500 falling, because unless you expect that this is the permanent end of America, you shouldn't be worried about S&P 500. But the S&P 500 share of VWRL might reduce if the US shares are dropping, but VWRL will always be a good buy in my books. Again, this is not investment advice, it's just what I would do, right? So thank you Tunde Bada, thank you KOBW4GZ, thanks for your comments. I really appreciate, I say this all the time, I really appreciate people that comment on my videos, and I especially want to appreciate Bada because this is like his second or third comment on my videos, and it's really encouraging when you see those kind of interactions. I believe we are now at the end of this video. It's been a long video. It was a long recording, and I'm actually recording this at night after work on a Monday. But thank you for watching till the end, if you watched till the end. And if you're interested in this kind of video, this kind of fun experiment with AI, maybe next time I'll do a fun experiment with, I don't know. But if you enjoyed this kind of video, we combine a bit of prompt engineering with financial discussion and tips, please let me know in the comments. Subscribe so you get more videos like this, and make sure you take something away from the video that you will use. Something else that I almost forgot was, if we do a tally of is AI good or bad, or sorry, is Gemini getting the right answers or not, I would give it like a 60%, right? Because it came up with some good suggestions, but most of the time it needed me to provide some nudge. It needed me to nudge it in the right direction. I would suggest something to give me the pros and cons. Like for instance, when I suggested Invest Engine and eToro, it gave me the pros and cons of the Invest Engine, it gave me the pros and cons of eToro, and suggested, okay, fine, they might work, but here are the pros and cons. That's actually really a good way to use AI, because it has access to a lot of information, but sometimes from what I can see here, it's still struggling to put it all together into actionable recommendations that work all the time. So it gives you some recommendations, but it doesn't open itself up to all the options sometimes, right? So sometimes you need to nudge it, or maybe it's just on this topic of personal finance, I don't know, because I had some really good recommendations from AI when it comes to the area of content creation. It is excellent. So I don't know, let's see, I guess it depends on the topic, but yeah, it was a fun exercise, it was a fun experiment. But financial advisors are not going anywhere soon. If you enjoyed this type of content, subscribe for more and watch this video that I'm pointing at here, because YouTube has told me that you are going to love it. Have a good one. See you around.